Yeah, I hear you. What it do, man? Chilling, man. John 5:39, everybody. And after that, 1 Corinthians 15 and 39. John 5:39. We give praise, esteem, and honor to the Most High Yahuwah by Shem Yahusha this day. John 5:39. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me, and you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. Well, let's go on and see what the master got for this heat in 1 Corinthians 15 and 39. I'm going to start at about 34 though. I'll do 33 just because I feel good this evening. 1 Corinthians 15 and 33. Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. Y'all have to realize that I wouldn't care. Don't let nobody lie to you. Bad behavior will corrupt you. We done dealt with that before. I ain't finna go into no great detail. Just pay attention to it. Bad behavior corrupts good communication. Whatever you thinking, a sinner get you wrong. A sinner get you off track. A sinner appease your flesh. I'm talking about I wouldn't care who it was. And if your flesh getting appeased, you definitely can't please Yahuwah. Because whosoever in the flesh cannot please Elohim, because the flesh is enmity against the law of Elohim. It is not subject to it, neither indeed can be. And I'm saying that to say this. Don't think just because you feel like you're not committing an act of sin, that you're in your flesh, that you straight. Because the flesh causes you to separate from Yahuwah and a greater trespass. And that's unbelief. That's unbelief. That is unbelief. Awake to righteousness and sin not, for some have not the knowledge of Elohim. I speak this to your shame. So he's telling you that if you don't have the knowledge of Yahuwah, and we know that the knowledge of the Kadesh one is understanding, according to Proverbs 9 and 13. And we know the Son of Elohim is coming to give us an understanding. And that understanding is when he opened up the scriptures to show all the things written in the Torah of Masha and the Talahim and the Tanakh and all the things pertaining to him. That if you don't have that, then that man say you ought to be ashamed of yourself. That's what he's telling you. And that's going back to what I was discussing before we even began. If you are destitute of that, this man say you need to awake to righteousness. What is righteousness? But that you believe in Yahuwah. You are not right with Yahuwah and you do not believe. Y'all, you got to remember Genesis 15 and 6. I tell it to y'all all the time. That was the justification of Abraham, was his faith. He believed in Yahuwah and Yahuwah counted it to him for righteousness. Yahuwah will not count you righteous when you do not believe. Period. But some man will say, how are the dead raised up? And what body do they come? So he's asking, what body do the dead get? He say, thou fool, that which thou sow is not quickened except it die. Well, we're going to have to sit back and look at an example of something being made alive, but it had to die first. I think it's 2 Kings chapter 6 I desire. Let's see. Let me make sure. Let's see if that's what you desire. 2 Kings chapter 6. Let me see that's what I mean. Let me make sure. Because it's 2 Kings 13. I always get the chapter wrong. 2 Kings 13, right? Look at about verse 20. 2 Kings 13 and 20. And after that, John 12 and 23. You have to understand something. You can't be sold and become a son of Elohim and take this nature on except you die first. That means you must crucify or mortify your members. This must be done. Anything that would cause you to be contrary to the word and will of Yahuwah must perish. If it does not perish, you will perish with it. Anything that does not lead you to mortify your members is going to lead you away from Yahuwah, and it is of the adversary. Irregardless of what anybody tell you. And Elisha died, and they buried him, and the bands of the Moabites invaded the land at the coming in of the year. And it came to pass as they were burying a man, that behold, they spied a band of men, and they cast the man into the sepulchre of Elisha. And when the man was let down and touched the bones of Elisha, he revived and stood up on his feet. Now it's sitting here telling you this man was dead, but he was not able to come back until he had died. And then after touching the bones of Elisha, he was revived. Or he was made alive, because he said that which is sown cannot be made unless it dies first. Now let's look at 1 Peter chapter 4 and about verse 1. And let's sit back and let's look at that and get a little understanding before we look at John chapter 12 and verse 23. See, in order to be born again, you must perish first. You have to give yourself up. See, this is what don't nobody want to do. I'm just pulling up a list of names real fast. And it means Elohim is my salvation. So in order for you to get salvation, just like this man got salvation from death because he touched the dead body of Elisha. This is how he was able to be made alive. We have to sit back and look at that we have to be made alive or sown or quickened to be able to be manifested and changed if we make ourselves one with the body of Mashiach. 1 Peter 4 and 1. So knowing that has to die, that means all the things of self, all the selfish desires, the selfish wants, the selfish motivations, all of these things have to perish. Before we read John 12 and 23, get you Ezekiel 18 and about 29 after we read this 1 Peter chapter 4. For as much then as Mashiach hath suffered for us in the flesh, arm yourselves likewise with the same mind. For he that hath suffered in the flesh hath ceased from sin, that he should no longer live the rest of his time in the flesh to the lust of men, but to the will of Elohim. So you would have to suffer in your flesh. Like it says in this same epistle letter, where Peter sat back and he stated that how the master left us an example that we should follow his steps. He didn't sin, and wasn't no lying in his mouth. He bare our sins in his own body, that us being dead to sins should live unto righteousness or be made alive. So that means you would have to suffer in the flesh, or did as he did, take up your stake and follow me. He suffered in the flesh on the stake, mortifying his members, dying in his body, so in purpose showing us how we would die in our body, which is the purpose of you seeing that man's body being thrown in the sepulcher with Elisha in that grave. Because this man was dead. But because Elohim was his salvation and he touched that body or became one with it upon touching it, it made him alive. Because he had died. And we have to sit back. You have to willingly die. Like everybody goes to get immersed. But it's saying that I'm willing to die. I'm willing to give my life up. Or as Tehillim 50 says, Psalm 50 say, you're making a covenant with him by sacrifice. You are willing to sacrifice your life. Literally. See, people always quote Romans 12 and 2 or 12 and 1. Offer yourself as a living sacrifice. But do you really understand what that means? Because Yahushua sacrificed his life literally. All he's asking you to do is sacrifice your selfish desires that will pull you away from the will of Elohim. Ezekiel 18 and 29. Ezekiel 18 and 29. Yet saith the house of Yasharal, the way of Yahuwah is not equal. O house of Yasharal, are not my ways equal, and not your ways unequal? Now he's sitting here talking about a different particular matter. But I'm going to just sit back and say, see, that's what a lot of people's problem is. See, they feel like that our ways are equal and Yahuwah's ways ain't equal, and we seek to do things according to what Yahuwah say. No, sir, your ways are not equal. All ways are off balance. When you say something is unequal, that means you're saying it's a false balance, it's a false weight. We'll have the nerve, the gall, the audacity to say Yahuwah is moving with a false weight and a false balance because we don't like the way he do things. That's blasphemous. And we know the law says you ought to be put to death for that. Therefore I will judge you, O house of Yasharal, everyone according to his ways, saith Yahuwah Elohim. Repent and turn yourselves from all your transgressions, so iniquity shall not be your ruin. Cast away from you all your transgressions, whereby you have transgressed, and make you a new lev and a new ruach. For why will you die, O house of Yasharal? For I have no pleasure in the death of him that dieth, saith Yahuwah Elohim. Wherefore turn yourselves and live ye. So in order for you to live, you have to die to your desire. This man said you got to make you a new heart and a new ruach. Well, we're going to read John 12 and 23. Then I think Philippians 2 and about 20. And you're going to see how that process goes about. That means you need to make yourself a new mind. You got to take out that spirit of lust, that spirit of the world, that spirit of the flesh, and take on the spirit of Yahuwah. He said, what kind of body does do they come with? He said, thou fool. That means he told him, you stupid. You know the book and you don't know that which is made alive got to die first? You done it. This is what Paul is basically telling us in these people while he's writing to them. So I'm going to sit back and look like, dang, he called them stupid. He called these people stupid. 12 and 23. John, I should say. Yahushua answered them, saying, the hour is come that the son of Elohim, son of man, my apologies, should be esteemed. Keep that in mind when he's talking about the esteemed part. Truly, truly, I say unto you, except the corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abide alone. But if it die, it bring forth much fruit. He that loveth his life shall lose it, and he that hateth life in this world shall keep it unto life eternal. If any man serve me, let him follow me, and where I am, there shall also my servant be. If any man serve me, him will my Father esteem. So we have to sit back and realize that. That man say, wherever I am, my servant going to be at. So ask yourself, is what you doing and where you going, is Yahushua there? Because if he ain't there, that means you ain't serving him, which means the Father is not going to honor you, which means you're directing and leading yourself. You're doing what you want to do. Now keep that in mind. That man say, where I am, my servant will be. Is Yahuwah where you at? Because when the people walked away from Mashiach, this man asked Peter, will you leave also? And Peter said, where we going to go? You got the words of eternal life. So this man said, boy, Yahuwah is with you. Where am I going to go at? Where am I going to go at? That goes back to that Matthew 13. You have to realize how rare and precious the word is. It's people desperately seeking salvation, wanting to know the truth. And that's why the man says it's a famine in the land. It's a famine in the land. Yeah, it's 1,001 people out here preaching the word, but ain't many of them preaching you salvation by the way of Yahushua HaMashiach, that you might receive the Ruach and be quick in the life everlasting. They're just telling you laws, laws, laws. They're reading you the stories, but yet you're not getting any understanding to believe on the Son that your soul might be saved, that you might be transformed and conformed to his image. Just like we were talking about briefly on the Shabbat, which most high willing, I got to finish that on Shabbat, with Ezekiel 43. Well, 43, with the laws of the house. If you don't know the pattern and the measurement and the laws of the house, you can't even come in it. I hear you, son. I hear you. You can't even come in it. That man said, this is the law of the house. He say, show them that so they can come in the house. He say, before you can come in the house, you must be ashamed. So how can you see the pattern of the house and go contrary to it after that? That means you never believed. That's all that means. We have to keep these things in account. Don't play with your soul. Y'all hear me? When you know better, you can't go backwards. Don't play with your life. You don't know if this man will say, I'm good. You don't know. Don't play with your life. Philippians 2 and 20. Then after that, back to 1 Corinthians 15. Make it 2 and 17. Philippians 2 and 17. Forgive me, I was drinking a lukewarm beverage. My water's not cold anymore. Brethren, be followers together of me, and mark them which walk so, as you have us for an ensample. For many walk, whom I've told you often, and I'll tell you even weeping, they are enemies of the stake of Mashiach. These people don't want to die. They're enemies of death. Dying to the flesh is their least desire. Whose end is destruction, who Elohim is their belly, and whose esteem is in their shame, who mind earthly things. See, you have to have a difference. Either you're going to have a mind for the terrestrial, or you're going to have a mind for the celestial. Which one are you going to be a partaker in? For our behavior is in Shamahim. So he say our behavior or our mind, our conduct, our heart is on high. Our heart is not on this earth. See, Colossians 3 and 1 tell you this here. Set your things on the things that are above and not the things on this earth. He said your life is hid in Mashiach, who sit at the right hand of Elohim. Matter of fact, get that Colossians 3 and 1 behind it when we finish it, because I want you to hear the rest of what Shaul states in his statement. He say, for our behaviors in Shamahim, from whence also we look for the Savior, the Master, Yahushua HaMashiach, who shall change our vile body, that it may be fashioned like unto his esteemed body, according to the working whereby he is even able to subdue all things unto himself. This man say he's going to sit back to make our body like his body. And in order to get that body, you have to take on that mind. Before you can receive that body, you have to take on that mind. See, right now, we had an earthly mind because we were in an earthly vessel. But in order to get a vessel that's from Shamahim, we need to take on the mind that is from Shamahim. But let's look at Colossians 3 and 1. That's what the resurrection of Mashiach was showing you, of being risen or having a mind that was on high versus a mind that is on the earth. If you then be risen with Mashiach, seek those things which are above, where Mashiach sit on the right hand of Elohim. Set your affection on the things above, and not on things on the earth. For ye are dead, and your life is hid with Mashiach and Elohim. When Mashiach, who is our life, shall appear, then ye shall also appear with him in esteem. Mortify, therefore, your members which are upon their wrath, fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affection, evil conspicuous, and covetousness, which is idolatry. For such things sake the wrath of Elohim come on the children of disobedience, in the which ye also walked sometimes when you lived in them. But now also put off all of these: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth. Lie not one to another, seeing that you have put off the old man with his deeds, and have put on the new man, which is renewed in the knowledge after the image of him that created him. So again, it's going back to that knowledge of him that created you. Who created you to be made into this esteemed body with this mind? It's Mashiach. How can you be renewed in the image after the man who created you if you don't hear about him? If you don't know about him? It will be impossible. You will not be able to do it. This man is sitting here telling you these things. All that fornication, that lust, that idolatry, that anger, that wrath, that malice, the blasphemy, all the lying, all this stuff needs to be eradicated. Those are the things of the terrestrial and not the celestial. If you done been risen with Mashiach, then there has to be a transformation in your mind, a renewing in your mind. There has to be a death that's taking place inwardly. This man was put to death in the flesh that he might be quickened inwardly by the Ruach. And we have to turn about and do the same thing. Because if the word is dwelling inside of you, it will put to death the works and motions of the flesh. As Paul stated in Romans chapter 7, I delight after the law of Elohim in the inward man. Because inwardly, this word is putting to death all the things of the flesh that will cause me to go contrary. 1 Corinthians 15. We're in 1 Corinthians 15 and 39. He said, but Elohim, I'm sorry, I got to finish the verse 37 completely. And that which thou sow not the body that shall be. Actually, we're in 36. Thou fool, that which thou sow is not quickened except it die. And that which thou sow not that body that shall be, but bear grain. It may chance of wheat or some other grain. Hold on. What is that? Galatians chapter 6. Go to Galatians 6 and 9. Galatians 6 and 6. Galatians 6 and 6. Let him that is taught in the word communicate unto him that teach in all good things. Be not deceived, Elohim is not mocked, for whatsoever a man sows, that shall he also reap. For he that sowed to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption, but he that sowed to the Ruach shall of the Ruach reap life everlasting. And let us not be weary in well doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. When we turn around and we look at the Master, he did not faint in his labors. See, a lot of people, they end up falling out and they get weak. They get weak because they feel like I ain't reaping what I've been sowing because I've been continually doing this here. But he's saying due season you'll receive your reward. Well, we have to sit back and look at when will you see your reward in due season if you faint not. John 5:25. Because he said you're going to reap what you sow. You sow to your flesh, you're going to reap corruption. You're going to hell. You sow to the Ruach, you will live forever. All you got to do is stay fast and well doing. You will in due season reap. Well, when we look at due season, we look at two things. There's two seasons for us. Summer and winter. What would you reap in due season? You will reap life everlasting at the resurrection of the dead in due season at harvest time. Just what Paul just mentioned in 1 Corinthians 15. This man just sat back and said, you might chance of wheat, you might chance of another grain. When do you come get your wheat and grain? But at harvest time. So we looking to be picked up at harvest time. That's taking you back to them wheats and the tares. He say when the reaper come, he say take the wheat and bring it in my barn. Take the tares and gather them up and burn them. John 5:25. Make it 5 and 24. Make it matter of fact. Look at verse 21. John 5:21. For as the Father raised up the dead and quickened them, even so the Son quickened whom he will. For the Father judged no man, but have committed all judgment unto the Son, that all men should honor the Son, even as they honor the Father. He that honor not the Son, honor not the Father which hath sent him. So when we don't honor or respect Yahushua and his sacrifice and count his blood as an unset apart thing, we dishonor Yahuwah and bring reproach to his name. Truly, truly, I say unto you, he that hear my word and believe on him that sent me, have everlasting life, and shall not come into condemnation, but is passed from death unto life. Truly, truly, I say unto you, the hour is coming, and now is, when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of Elohim, and they that hear shall live. So you sit back and you look at this, right? This man say, if you hear my word, you pass from death to life, because the word of Yahuwah is life. We dealt with that a long time ago. I think the name of the sermon is Yahuwah is life. The word of Yahuwah is life. Whenever you hear that word, because you got to remember, you're flesh and blood. You're dust. From the dust you came, and the dust you shall return. That's what the Torah say. But he say, whoever hears and believes my word, they go from being dead to being alive. See, the Son heard the word. That's why he say, whosoever live and believeth in me shall never taste death. Believe this. Whoever hears and believes this word will never die. Because you'll go from being dead to being alive. Because you were dead in your trespasses. Truly I say unto you. I'm in verse 26. My apologies. For as the Father have life in himself, so have he given the Son to have life in himself. Because Yahuwah is life. So therefore he gave that same life to the Son so he could give it unto us. Because we didn't have a right to partake in that according to the first covenant. Which Yahuwah will. We'll get on that before we leave here. Because I got about 25 to 30 minutes and it's over with. Because I ain't finna keep y'all all night. And have given him authority to execute judgment also, because he is the Son of Man. Marvel not at this, for the hour is coming in that which that are all in the grave, which all that are in the graves shall hear his voice, and shall come forth, they that have done good unto the resurrection of life, and they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation. Because we already read that. He's going to reward you according to your works, according to what he said to Ezekiel. And then Paul just wrote to you, whatever you sow, that's what you're going to get. So if you stay in a fleshly body, you'll get a fleshly reward. You will return to the dust, or you actually will be made firewood. If you sow to the Ruach, then you will be what Yahuwah is, which is life. So there's the causing of where you need to sit back and realize the mentality that you have. What are you operating in? What are you trying to satisfy? Are you satisfying your flesh? Or are you satisfying your Ruach that yearns desperately for Yahuwah's presence? It's the way of your thinking and the way of your steps. Are they directing you to Yahuwah or away from Yahuwah? And I'm really talking about your heart. The things that are in your heart. The things that you hold dear. Are they bringing you closer or are they taking you further? And just because you're sitting there hearing the word does not mean that you're coming closer. Because he say their heart is far from me. Because their heart go after their covetousness or their desires or their lusts. And lust does not necessarily mean lusting for physical gratification, but the things that you want or the things that you believe to be correct versus the things that Yahuwah wants and the things that Yahuwah says are correct. See, that's the difference. See, we say things that we believe are correct. What Yahuwah says is right. Get it, it is Isaiah 48. I think that's what he said. Isaiah 48. Get Isaiah 48 and 16. That ain't what I wanted. But I'm trying to think on where that's at that I want. That's what we got to sit back and realize. What Yahuwah says is right. I don't care what a nigga say out their mind. If Yahuwah said it's right, it's right. If Yahuwah said it's wrong, it's wrong. I don't care what nobody say. You know what I'm talking about? I don't care about nobody feeling when it comes to it. Take it how you want to take it. If Yahuwah said it's right, it's right. If Yahuwah said it's wrong, it's wrong. Isaiah 45, 48 and 16. He said, come ye near unto me, hear ye this. I have not spoken in secret from the beginning. From that time it was. There am I. And now Yahuwah Elohim and his Ruach have sent me. Thus saith Yahuwah thy Redeemer, the Kadesh one of Yasharah. I am Yahuwah thy Elohim, which teach thee to profit, which lead thee by the way that thou should go. There it was. This is Isaiah 45 and 17 though. That man said he's showing you the way that you ought to go. He's telling you the way to go. Let's see why he's telling you the way to go. Isaiah 45 and 17. He's telling you the way to go. But we don't want to go. He say, seek ye the ancient paths, you'll find rest for your Nephag. He said, we will not walk therein. But Yasharah shall be saved in Yahuwah with an everlasting salvation. You shall not be ashamed nor confounded, world without end. For thus saith Yahuwah that created Shamahim, Elohim himself that formed the Arats and made it. He have established it. He created it not in vain. He formed it to be inhabited. I am Yahuwah, and there is none else. I have not spoken in secret in a dark place of the Arats. I said not unto the seed of Yaakov, seek ye me in vain. I, Yahuwah, speak righteousness. I declare things that are right. This man said, I ain't told you nothing that was worthless. I didn't tell you to seek me and you wasn't going to get no profit. He said, I declare righteousness. I declare things that are right. So whatever Yahuwah say, that's right. Whatever anybody thinking, if y'all said it, it's right then. Come on back to 1 Corinthians 15. That's what people be messing up at. Well, I don't care what you think. My daddy said it's right, it's right. If it ain't right to you, that mean he ain't your Abba, he ain't your father. That mean you ain't his Ben, you ain't his son. It ain't right to you. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 37. And of that which thou sow not that body that shall be but bare grain. It may chance of wheat or some other grain. But Elohim giveth a body as it has pleased him, and to every seed his own body. All flesh is not the same flesh. There is one kind of flesh of men, and another flesh of beasts, and another of fishes, and another of birds. There are also celestial bodies and bodies terrestrial. The esteem of the celestial is one, and the esteem of the terrestrial is another. Well, let's look at that. Let's look at that. Bereshit, Genesis 1 and 26. Let's look at the esteem of the celestial, of the terrestrial, I should say. Oh my. That whole page is gone. Good grief. Did not know that. Did not know that. Genesis 1 and 26. And it says, and Elohim said, let us make man in our own image and after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all their rats, and over creeping things, every creeping thing that creep upon their rats. So Elohim created man in his own image. In the image of Elohim created he him, male and female created he them. Us just being in this flesh is an esteem of Elohim, because this isn't a glorified or an esteemed thing, because this is Yahuwah's creation. He say they're both are esteemed, they're celestial and terrestrial, and both have esteem in them. Let's look at something, I think, at 1 Corinthians 11. Hello. Huh? Hello. Oh boy, they ain't gonna let you live on that one now. What's up with you, man? Ooh, boy, that wild. 1 Corinthians 11 and 1. I ain't stating what I want, but Try to remember what it says. Oh, there it is right there. Praise the Lord. I'll drop down to it though. Be ye followers of me, even I, as I also am of Mashiach. Now I praise you, brethren, that you remember me in all things, and keep the ordinances as I delivered them unto you. This man's telling you to keep the laws like I taught them to you now. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Mashiach, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Mashiach is Elohim. So he's setting you to order things. But look at verse 7. He say, for man indeed ought not to cover his head, for as much as he is the image and the esteem of Elohim, but the woman is the esteem of the man. So the reason why we sit back and look at that celestial body, that man that he created in the flesh, that's the esteem of Elohim. That's why you turn around and you even seen that when the master was upon the arrest and he would call himself the Son of Man. That's still the esteem of Elohim while we in this flesh. But in order to get that greater esteem, there has to be a celestial body. Has to be a change. That's another type of esteem. It's an esteem that is greater. Excuse me. 2 Corinthians chapter 3 and about verse 3. And what is it showing you basically, honestly? Showing you the esteem of a natural man with Adam, who we looking at, who we were talking about in Genesis 1, which I didn't go grab it in Luke 24, when they seen the master in his glorified or esteemed state, saying, I'm not a Ruach, but you know, Ruach don't have flesh and bone as you see me have, and how he had changed form, and how he was shining like light, like you seen in Matthew 17, even which is an example with Moses in Exodus. When he went up on the mount, he went up as a different esteem of Elohim. He went up as flesh and blood. But when he broke the covenant, showing you that there was an eternal life attached to this, and it was renewed, he came down and his face was shining, showing you a different level of esteem. Showing you the esteem of the celestial, showing you the esteem of eternal life, because in him was light, and the light was the life of men. He was sitting back showing you that. The breaking of them tables of stone was showing you death, or the breaking of Mashiach, showing you that which can't be made alive except it die. So when Moses going up on the mount, you see the difference between the esteem of the terrestrial and the esteem of the celestial. In the Torah, you see what Paul is referring to, a different level of esteem. So you have to see that with the old and new covenant. It's a different level of esteem. 2 Corinthians 3 and 3. And with that different level of esteem comes a different mind. For as much as you are manifestly declared to be the epistle of Mashiach ministered by us, written not with ink, but with the Ruach of the living Elohim, not in tables of stone, but fleshly tables of the heart. And such trust have we through Mashiach to Elohim war. Not that we are sufficient of ourselves to think anything as of ourselves, but our sufficiency is of Elohim, who also have made us able ministers of the New Testament, not of the letter, but of the Ruach. For the letter kill, but the Ruach give life. But if the ministration of death written and engraven in stones was esteemed, so that the children of Yasharal could not steadfastly behold the face of Moses for the esteem of his countenance, which esteem was to be done away, how shall not the ministration of the Ruach be rather esteemed? For if the ministration of condemnation be esteemed, much more doth the ministration of righteousness exceed in esteem. For even that which was made esteem had no esteem in this respect, by the reason of the esteem that excelled. For that which is done away was esteemed, much more that which remained is esteemed. Now he's giving you an example of telling you something. That first law could not save your soul. The blood of bulls and goats could not purge your conscience from dead works. Therefore, there would have been no need to offer another sacrifice. But yet it was esteemed nonetheless, because it caused the man's face to shine. It was the esteem of Elohim. It came straight from him. He say, but that ministration of righteousness, that ministration or that service of faith, which Yahushua exhibited by walking this earth. John 20 and 29. Make it John 20 and 27. He say that which was done away with. He was showing you how this covenant here of death would be done away, and something that would excel it would come. So we're looking at, we are taking on it from a natural body and taking on a spiritual body. And in order to be able to do that, there has to be a change from a natural mind to a spiritual mind in order to be able to become that body out of the earth at that due season. John 20 and 27. That's why he said you'll receive your hope in due season if you don't faint now. You can't be about to fall out. See, niggas be right here ready to fall out. Oh, it's hard. It's hard. Oh, I can't keep going. John 20 and 26. He said, well, don't keep going then. You go ahead and fall out and die, nigga. Ain't no need for you to keep going. And after 8 days again, his disciples were within, and Thomas with them. And then came Yahushua, the doors being shut, and stood in the midst, and said, Shalom be unto you. Then saith he to Thomas, reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands, and reach hither thy hand, and thrust it into my side. And be not faithless, but believing. Now, of course, that man who got thrown in the grave with Elisha didn't do all of that. But he got thrown in there and he was made alive. And then for us to be able to be made alive, we cannot be faithless. We must believe. It's the only way you're going to be quick and be made alive. He said, the words that I speak unto you, they are ruach and they are life. That man said, he that heareth my word and believe on him that sent me will be passed from death unto life. And Thomas answered and said unto him, my Yahuwah, well, my master and my Elohim. Yahushua saith unto him, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Baruch are they that have not seen, and yet have believed. And many other signs truly did Yahushua in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in his book. But these are written that you might believe that Yahushua is the Mashiach, the son of Elohim, and that believing you might have life through his name. And what do we sit back and see that Elisha names mean? Elohim is my salvation. And Yahushua is Yahuwah is salvation. And in order for you to attain that salvation, you have to do just like that man did, as he died to be able to be made alive when he was joined to the dead body of Elohim's salvation. And you have to crucify yourselves with Mashiach and be buried with him in immersion and be raised in the likeness of his resurrection and walk in newness of life in order to be able to say that your soul will be saved. Come on back to 1 Corinthians 15. Because a lot of people not going to make it. They're not going to make it. First Corinthians 15 and where we at, man? Verse 40, what we looked at. Let's look at verse 41. He said, there's one esteem of the sun and another esteem of the moon and another esteem of the stars, for one star differeth from another in esteem. So also is the resurrection of the dead. It is sown in corruption, it is raised in incorruption. It is sown in dishonor, it is raised in esteem. It is sown in weakness, it is raised in power. It is sown a natural body, it is raised a spiritual body. There is a natural body and there is a spiritual body. And so it is written, the first man Adam was made a living nephash, and the last Adam was made a quickening ruach. So what do we see with this here when he says this here? There's one esteem of the sun, another esteem of the moon, and another esteem of stars. Well, we know from many times that we done looked at it, is the stars are representative of the sons of Mashiach. Correct. So if we know that the star, he say each star is different in its esteem. 1 Corinthians chapter 12. 1 Corinthians chapter 12. 1 Corinthians 12 and 7. Well, 12 and 6. Well, 12 and 4. Now, in order to become a son of Elohim or a star, the Ruach has to be received. Once it's been received, then there's different things that he gives, and everyone is different. But there's still the esteem of Elohim nonetheless, because you are a son of Elohim. He said, because he said he has given you the power to become the sons of Elohim, all those that believe on his name. So once you have believed and you have been sealed, and he desires to give you a gift of the thing that has sealed you, which is his eternal presence, which is his eternal Ruach, the Ruach of separation, the thing that will separate you from the rest of the world by the resurrection of the dead and the power of Elohim. That's how it says in Romans, that's what Shaul stated, that's what made Yahushua the son of Elohim, with power and the resurrection of the dead. So what will make us a son of Elohim? That we have to sit back and realize we were sown in corruption, but raised in incorruption. That takes you back to Adam. Adam was sown in corruption because he was made from the dust of the earth. Jeremiah 18 tell you about that when he say the potter made the clay. Clay is corruptible. He was made of the earth. That was not eternal. So when the master came and he raised from the grave, now it's been raised in incorruption, because now he is back to being the son of Elohim. Or as Paul wrote in Hebrews 1, quoting Psalms, that he say his ministers, his Malachim, are ministers of fire, minister of Ruachs, or flames of fire. What is that fire? Your Elohim is a consuming fire. It's the Ruach HaKodesh. It's a fire. He say his word, he said, I tried to be quiet, but his word was like a fire in my bones. I couldn't stop. I had to keep bringing it. He said, my word is like a fire. You got to understand that. And we ain't talking about no fire just to come out there and just try to drop some precepts. That ain't what we talking about. It's a fire in your bones that consumes all things and purifies you to make you whole and pure. That's what the word does. So you're going to take a loss. You know, when something get burned, it burns up and it purifies, or you take a loss. So in order for you to be set on fire, you have to lose things, which is your own will and desire. You have to lose it. But in losing that, you gain Yahuwah, which is a greater price. That's why he say, cast away from you all your transgressions, whereby you have transgressed. Do not let lawlessness, do not let your belly, do not let your desires, do not let idolatry cause your destruction. That flesh will get you in trouble every single time. In your flesh dwells no good thing. The Ruach is willing, the flesh is weak. Do not yield to your members that seek to kill you. And understand something, that yielding to your members is not necessarily running and committing a work of the flesh, because it will cause you to separate in faith and trust and hope in Yahuwah and staying in his path, to where you get outside of his will and do your own thing. First Corinthians 12:4. Now there are diversity of gifts, but the same Ruach. And there are differences of administrations, but the same Master. There are diversities of operations, but it's the same Elohim which work all in all. But the manifestation of the Ruach is given every man to profit withal. For everyone is given by the Ruach the words of wisdom. So we know wisdom is Kokma. So by that same Ruach, he might give one star the ability to let a man know how to be skillful in war. To another, the word of knowledge by the same Ruach. So then another man by the same Ruach, he might give him the knowledge of the word. And to another, faith by the same Ruach. Then that same Ruach could give a man a heart of Amunah, that conviction. What we talked about in 2 Chronicles 31, where you in your set office or in your faith, you sanctified yourself by the faith in Yahushua, that you might receive forgiveness of sins. He say to another, the working of miracles. To another, prophecy. To another, discerning of Ruachs. To another, diverse kinds of tongues. To another, interpretation of tongues. But all these work that one self-same Ruach, dividing to every man severally as he will. For as the body is one and have many members, and all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is Mashiach. Now let's drop down one, right? And let's look about verse 27. And listen to what he said. He said, now ye are the body of Mashiach, and members in particular. And Elohim has set some in the body, first apostles. See, the reason why we're looking at this here is he say each star differ from esteem. And this is going to lead up to what we're talking about when we deal with this socialistic theocracy. So when we sit back and we look at the setup of the body, the first person at the top of it is an apostle. And I'm going to show you this out of Torah, Yah willing, on the Shabbat. How that's set up with the order and the structure of that theocracy. Secondarily, prophets. Thirdly, teachers. After that, so this man is set and let you know how each one of these are stars, but each one differ in esteem. And even though they are equal, they differ in esteem. They all got a set place. And he say the apostle is first, the prophet is second, then the teacher. Then he say after them, you got miracles. Then the gifts of healings, helps, government, and diversity of tongues. And then look at the question that he asked. Are all apostles? Are all prophets? Are all teachers? Again, you notice how he sets these three things in order that have the set order of how y'all got it set up. Are all workers of miracles? Have all gifts of healing? Do all speak with tongues? Do all interpret? But I covet earnestly the best gifts, and yet I show you a more excellent way. So even though all these people that have these things that are stars are sons of Elohim, and yet they're one and they're equal, he showed you how they differ in esteem, that some are actually have a higher level of esteem of others according to how Yahuwah wants it and how he got it set up. Because all the people were esteemed by Yahuwah coming up out of Mishraim, but Moses had a different level of esteem than Aaron had. Yahushua, son of Nun, had a different level of esteem than Caleb had. They had a different level. Moses had a different level of esteem than the set princes of all the tribes. Because that's how Yahuwah set it up. Yet they were all sons though. See, the difference coming at is, do the sons lift themselves up in their own heart as if they are greater than their brethren? See, Mashiach said you're all brethren. See, what he was talking about in Matthew 23 when it comes to that is the scribes felt like they were better than the people. Therefore, they looked down on them. That's where the problem come in at. They looked down on them and ruled over them with rigor because they felt like they were better than them. That don't you come near me, don't you touch me, ugh, you nasty bastard. You know what I'm saying? That's how they came. Mashiach was hard with his. But at the same token, he did not think that he was any better than his people, even though he differed in esteem than them all. He was greater than all. He is greater than all of us. He is greater than all of us. But he didn't move that way, though. He didn't move that way, though. That's the difference. He didn't move that way. He know he differed in esteem. How can we sit here and say, yeah, we're equal to the Son? He said, don't think it be robbery to make yourself equal to Elohim. But yet in the same token, he say, but in power, I'm greater than that. He say, in throne and power, I'm greater than you. That's what Pharaoh told Joseph. Mashiach say, you equal to me, right? But we also got to know in throne and power, he's greater than us. So even though we're all stars, we have a different level of esteem. So when you look at being raised in incorrupt, it was sown in incorruption, but raised in corruption, but raised in incorruption. We have to sit back and look at is that carnal mind is corruptible, but when we came up out of that water, it's supposed to be showing forth that now we have an incorruptible mind. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 20. So there has to be a hallmark or a showing of a changing of mind state. Also, too, Yahuwah willing, man, y'all that are in the state of Florida, y'all be careful this week. There's supposed to be a storm sliding through the Gulf Coast way, bring some good rain and water. Or wind and rain. So, y'all be careful, because it's supposed to rain all the way, I think, from Shabbat all the way to Wednesday. First Peter 1 and 20. Who was truly foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these last times for you, who by him do believe in Elohim, that raised him from the dead and gave him esteem, that your faith and hope might be in Elohim. So I want y'all to understand something, right? Yahuwah set it up for men to teach and lead his people. But those who teach and lead his people would teach you to have your faith and your hope in Elohim and not to have your faith in men. Now, sometimes people end up putting their faith in men without in them men even teaching you to do that. Because that's the natural inclination of the flesh. Because you can see the man, but you can't see Yahuwah. But your faith and hope has to be in Yahuwah. Anyone who Yahuwah sent is going to point you to Yahuwah. They're going to point you to Yahushua, and Yahushua is pointing you to Abba Yahuwah. The problem is when men teach the word and they go to pointing this to themselves and have you looking to them instead of looking at Shamahim. That's when the problem comes in. Seeing that you have purified your souls in obeying the truth through the Ruach unto unfeigned love of the brethren, see that you love one another with a pure heart fervently, being born again, not of corruptible seed, but of incorruptible, by the word of Elohim, which live and abide forever. Remember, the seed is the word of Elohim. Let that word fall in your lab and die. Therefore, when it dies, it will mortify your members. It will cause your body to cease to live, to commit transgression. For all flesh is as grass, and the esteem of man is the flower of grass. The grass wither, and the flower thereof fall away. Again, dust you are and dust you shall return. You will perish. It was sown in corruption, but raised in incorruption. But the word of Yahuwah endure forever. And this is the word which by the gospel is preached unto you. But then it is raised in incorruption. And therefore you abide in heaven and forever, because your behavior is in Shamahim. Because you look to have this vile body or this filthy body or this detestable sinful flesh to be changed into the esteemed body of your Elohim. And in order for that to happen, you must be born again, which means you have to die and be made into, conformed into that image. Well, that means there has to be a renewing of your mind. 1 Corinthians 15 yet again. Almost done here, people. Almost done here. We have to save the rest for a little later. Because it's about 8:31. And my time is about up. My time is just about up. So we look at 1 Corinthians 15. So when we see how that first Adam was made a living soul and the second Adam was made a quickening ruach, able to make you alive, we see the difference that we were never alive before Mashiach came. We were never alive. We would never be able, we weren't revived at that time. It's kind of the instance where, like the story of Samson, where he was about to perish and then he caused that water to come out and then he said he was refreshed, he was revived. We have to sit back and look at that. We need to be revived. The same way as it speaks about the Shabbat in Exodus 31, he said on the seventh day he rested and he was refreshed, or he was renewed or regenerated. So we look like when we dwell in Mashiach, and Mashiach dwells in us, it should cause a regeneration or a refreshing or a renewing of the mind. To where you go from being a terrestrial body to a celestial body. That you're going from being a natural man to a spiritual man. That you go from being corruptible to incorruptible. He said it was sown in weakness but raised in power. The Master told you in Matthew 26 and 41, the Ruach is willing but the flesh is weak. Ecclesiastes 8 and 5 tells you that where the word of the king is, there is power. This flesh is weak and desires to lean to its own thing. This is why he told you that you needed to cast away all your transgressions and make a new heart and a new spirit. In order to do that, put away the weakness of the flesh and reside and live in the power of Elohim, and you will dwell forever. But if you do not do these things, you will surely perish. You will surely perish. Why would you die? What is the reason for it? What is the rationale? Verse 46. Howbeit, that was not first which is spiritual, but that which is natural, and afterwards that which is spiritual. This again is going back to what we were looking at with the covenant. That first covenant was natural, it wasn't spiritual. So it was showing you that Adam being made was showing you how the first covenant was natural, it wasn't spiritual. That which was spiritual had to come later. That what was showing you with Moses going up on the mount, getting the tables of stone and his face shining. The spirit came later. So that way you would appreciate the power of Elohim and be sealed up by that faith that comes through the power of Elohim, which is in the personage of his son, Yahushua HaMashiach. The first man is of the Eretz, earthy, and the second man is the master from Shamahim. As is the earthy, such are they also that are earthy. And as is the heavenly, such is also those that are heavenly. And we have borne the image of the earthy, we shall also bear the image of the heavenly. Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Elohim, neither doth corruption inherit incorruption. We went over this before. Let's look at something. Let's look at Genesis chapter 3. We done dealt with this before. We're going to look at how corruptible can't inherit incorruption. Don't say, let's look at it. Genesis chapter 3, verse 20. I got to crank it up a notch. Because there's one key point I want to hit before I depart. Once I hit that, we good and go. 3 and 19. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread till thou return unto the ground. For out of it was thou taken, for dust thou art, and dust thou shalt return. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. Unto Adam also and to his wife Yahuwah made a coat of skins, and clothed them. And Yahuwah Elohim said, Behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. Now lest he put forth his hand, and take also of the tree of life, and eat and live forever. Therefore Yahuwah Elohim sent him forth from the garden, to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the garden of Eden cherubims, and a flaming sword, which turned every way, to keep the way of the tree of life. The tree of life is incorruptible. Man, he just told you that man would be corruptible now. Corruption cannot inherit incorruption. Therefore, he could not allow him to inherit this peace, because he was corruptible. Now let's look at something in Revelation chapter 2 and verse 5. So we have to sit back and look at this here. A carnal mind is corruptible. Therefore, you cannot inherit the tree of life, or you cannot inherit the Ruach unless you put that forth from you. So let's look at what the Master say here in Revelation 2 and 5. Revelation 2 and 5. 2 and 5 is not what I desire. I desire 2 and 7. He that have an ear, let him hear what the Ruach saith unto the synagogues. To him that overcome will I give to eat of the tree of life, which is in the midst of the paradise of Elohim. Well, we know from Yeshayahu 51, Isaiah 51, he said he would make Jerusalem like the Garden of Eden. So if you overcome, remember the Master said in John 16:33, be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. Who is he that overcome the world? But he that believes that Yahushua is the son of Elohim. This is the victory, even our faith. This is your victory. If you believe that he is the son of Elohim, because he already overcame and defeated sin and defeated death and defeated the flesh, so there's no condemnation that dwell in Yahushua HaMashiach. No condemnation. Because he came to bring the righteousness of which the law could not give you. No condemnation. The administration of eternal life. So you have to sit back and you got to realize that. You got to understand that. If you have a carnal mind, you cannot partake in the things that are eternal. So you got to go from being terrestrial to celestial in your thought process in order to take that same body on. If you don't do that, you will die and you will go to hell. And I don't care how much you sit back and look at, well, I ain't sinning. You sinning if you still think naturally. Because you have not taken on the mind of Elohim, which means your mind is in enmity with the law of Elohim. It will never be subject to it, and the righteousness of the law is faith. Therefore, the just shall live by that Amunah and sanctify themselves by the faith in Mashiach and live accordingly. Because of the motivation of belief and love from the heart, from the lair, from the wellspring of life, which is your mind. He tells you to guard your heart. The issues of life proceed forth from it. Guard your mind. Play with the world if you want to. Play with your flesh if you want to. Play with sinners if you want to. And you will perish. Because you don't have a spiritual mind. You're sowing to the flesh and you will reap corruption. Man say, man. Don't let nobody lie to you now. Evil communications corrupt good manners. Awake to righteousness. Awake to faith. Wake up out of your slumber and sin not. Some of you don't have the knowledge of Elohim. I speak this to your shame. That's what he's telling you. Revelation 22 and 14. Chill out, little man. You good. All that ain't got you what you wanted, so you might as well give up. 22 and 12. I appreciate your diligence, though, but it ain't working, man. Make it 11. He that is unjust, let him be unjust still. He which is filthy, let him be filthy still. I may say, you want to be carnal? Stay like that. He that is righteous, let him be righteous still. You believe? Stay like that. He that is Kadesh, let him be Kadesh still. You sanctified yourself? Stay like that. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give every man according as his work shall be. He gonna give you whatever you earn. You earn flesh, you getting flesh. You earn ruach, you getting ruach. I am the Aleph and the Tau, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Baruch are they that do his commandments, that they have made right to the tree of life, that they may enter in through the gates of the city. For without are dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers and murderers and idolaters and whosoever love and make a lie. Because corruptible can't inherit incorruption. They can't come in there to have right to that. You can't come in there to take it. Which means you can't even have a right to the tree of life. Because Mashiach say he the vine, he the branch. You can't have right to the tree of life now because you're corruptible in your thought process. You're flesh and blood in the heart and not flesh and bone. So therefore you can't get the ruach to be able to be made alive because you refuse to die. Back to 1 Corinthians 15. Praise Yahuwah for the word. 1 Corinthians 15 and where we at? 51. Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. You know, we dealt with that with Moses with the leprosy thing, pulling his hand out. For this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. Isaiah 25 and 8. This is the last key point what I had to hit. I had to hit this here. This man say, so now this mortal body has to put on an immortal body so that death can be swallowed up in that victory. Death was swallowed up in the victory that the master partook on the stake. Listen to what's written here. Yeshayahu 25 and 8. He will swallow up death in victory, and Yahuwah Elohim will wipe away tears from off all faces, and the rebuke of his people, and he shall he take away from off all their wraths, for Yahuwah hath spoken it. And it shall be said in that day, lo, this is our Elohim. We have waited for him, and he will save us. This is Yahuwah. We have waited for him. We will be glad and rejoice in his salvation. Look at Romans chapter 8 and verse 20 real fast. He said you waited for that salvation. You hoped in it. You waited for it. That means you endured all the way to the end. You watched and you waited. Romans 8 and 20. Make it 18. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the esteem which shall be revealed in us. When you sit back and look at the suffering of Mashiach, it wasn't compared to the esteem that was revealed to him when he rose from the dead. This man was beaten and disrespected, called a liar and a blasphemer. But it didn't compare to be made the son of Elohim at the last and inheriting all things. For the earnest expectation of the creature wait for the manifestation of the sons of Elohim. That's our earnest hope, that we be manifested to be shown to be his son. For the creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who has subjected the same in hope. You were made subject to worthlessness by being made of the flesh. You didn't willingly do it, but the power of Elohim had to be shown in you. Because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the esteemed freedom of the sons of Elohim. You had to be delivered from the bondage of this flesh into that freedom. Because he says in 2 Corinthians 3 and 17, where the Ruach of Yahuwah is, where the Ruach of the Master is, there is freedom. You'll be free in all things. Remember, he said, don't use your freedom as a chance to make occasion for the flesh. Because now you're free from the flesh. You're free from sin. You're free from death. You have freedom to live. For we know the whole creation groan and travail in pain together until now. And not only they, but ourselves also, which have the first fruits of the Ruach, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting for the adoption, to wit, the redemption of our body. For we are saved by hope. But that hope that is seen is not hope. For what a man see, why doth he yet hope for? But if we hope for that we see not, then we do with patience wait for it. That man sat back and said it would be said in that day that this is Yahuwah. He has saved us. We waited for him because our expectation and hope was to be changed from to the terrestrial to the celestial. That death will be swallowed up in victory, and we waited for it, and he fulfilled the word that he spoke. That hope must rest in you. That hope is what will keep you from having occasion to the flesh. With that right there, we'll stop right there. Hallelujah for Yahushua and word. We'll stop it right there. Y'all all right? Y'all understood all this stuff this evening?